Welcome everybody to the USL Live Season 26, Week 4 Preview Edition. Tonight we're going to go over the results of Week 3 and predict what's going to happen in Week 4. Tonight on the panel I have Angelus.
What's up?
Easoe.
Hello.
And the best for last, Fausto.
Buenas noches.
What's going on, guys? How we doing?
Good, brother. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. All right, well, let's just jump right into what happened during Week 3. The first match we had was Evolution versus MDR. MDR takes it 53-14 with MVP being Joe, aka Hollow. Fausto, what were your thoughts on this match?
Sorry, you cut off there a little bit. Macro data versus Evolution, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, I saw half of the match. I came in a little bit. I came in like a few minutes after it started, but overall, kind of what we anticipated. I will say that Evolution played pretty decent for the first like 6 or 7 minutes. But I will say that I was surprised that macro data refinement did not push as much as I figured they would have pushed. I think even though it was a calculated play style from there, and I feel like they could have probably beat Evolution by 70 to 80. I think they didn't utilize Exodus as much as in the secondary game. But overall, I mean, it's kind of what we expected. So, I mean, good job to Macro.
Okay. Easoe, I don't think you got to see it, but go ahead and give me your thoughts on at least the score.
No, this one, Macro versus Evolution. I did get to actually see this one. But as Fausto was saying, a little bit interesting as far as like the beginning of the match. But I was more surprised. He was saying how Macro Data didn't push more. I was surprised how Evolution didn't actually try and push a little bit more. If you look at the guys that actually played, they had a lot of good guys, man. Like, not sure also why they had Draco on Ripper. I would have changed that up. He needs to absolutely be a Marine. But yeah, I feel like they should have had a lineup to kind of take advantage of, how new MR is to the league, and they definitely didn't. So big shout out to MR, having a really good game as far as like Albert, he was solid. Hearthbull actually, I feel like this was his come out game. So Hearth finally kind of joined that party, and then also Chompy having a solid game. But yeah, definitely as expected, but also a pretty good one I think for MR.
All right, Angelus, as the person that played in the match, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, we had finally got to scrim with Evo earlier in the week. We had one night of SBs with them after not being able to sync up the first 2 weeks. So after that night and then reviewing their previous games, we had a feel that eventually we could get them to just deathball. Like maybe they'd have a few setup plays like they did against K-Dude last week, but if we could just maintain the beginning or withstand it, they would eventually start deathballing, and we were really ready for that going in. Uh, Fausto brought up a good point about us not pushing and stuff, and that's really just us not being comfortable enough fighting outside of an enemy base. I mean, half the game, half of us are running out of ammo because we forget to pick it up, and then we're just retreating back, trying to get refreshes or subs, as we'll talk about in the next game. But yeah, shout out to Evo. They were really cool to talk with and work with throughout the week. Looking forward to playing with them more. Yeah, we got some depth guys in here. This was ZMN's big debut. I mentioned at the beginning I'm trying to make playtime for everyone, so I'm like geeked out spreadsheet. This was a good win for that. But yeah, it was a good game. I did have to step away. I had a family emergency, but I got to rewatch the second half of the game, which I missed last night, and looked pretty stable. Didn't run anything exotic. Just kept staying spread out and wait for the death ball, then pounced on them.
Gotcha. Yeah, Easoe brought up a good point. Hearth really came out of the closet in this game like we knew he would. RR with the 1v3 to start it off in SL mid. I know he was geeked out about it. He was probably panicking while it was happening. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. He was shaking in his boots. I mean, Mosh has to hit his SGs there. Trax randomly throwing out instant and missing every single one instead of just throwing out the knives. And he somehow lives. That blew my mind. And if they took him there, I mean, it would have swung the first battle because then it's 8v7, right? You also mentioned Draco as Ripper Easoe. Draco, for the early part of that game, was the only bright spot for Evo, even on the Ripper. I do understand that he definitely had to change earlier when they had to start pushing. My other concern was that dude at Ranger. Uh, yeah, that's all I got on that one. I think G Unit and Chica should have been in from the get go as meds, and that dude subbed out for Ice, and I think the starting lineup then would have looked better, and I think it would have played a little bit closer. But yeah, that's all I got. Good game from MDR, RR, showing that he's a champion. Moving on to the next match of the night, it was MDR versus Franco, 42-32. MVP was Exodus. Go ahead, Fausto.
This was a good game to watch. I think the score was indicative of how the game actually played out. I think that Macrodata had a pretty commanding presence throughout the entire 30 minutes of the match. It wasn't until I think it was Jordan had like an awesome flank through mid on the semi second to last battle and killed like 4 people, which really opened it up, and they started getting some base rape kills, which brought this lead with or minimized this lead to 10. I want to say prior to that second to last battle, they were down about 2 battles worth. So the score is doesn't tell the whole story. I think that there was some few shining moments, some shiny stars in both teams. I'm happy to say that Hop played very well for Franco Tiradores, as well as Pandy. Mecha came unglued, like I said, the last 4 minutes of the match, which is great to see. And for Macro, Rio, as always, I think he's been consistently the reason why they're, up there in terms of getting these kills and cleanup kills and overall good positioning. Not only is he a great player, but also helps in the leading department, shot calling. Accidents played. He played very patient, but was able to hold in the pocket almost every single battle, which deterred Franco from pushing. I think really helped him tremendously. Overall, it's good to kind of see that Franco, they look like they're improving week over week, but I will say that Mecha leaving right before the roster lock is going to be very detrimental to them, not only in the kills department, but in the leading department. So I'm curious to see how they do next week. Overall, though, just as I predicted, Macro would have won.
Okay, Easoe?
Yeah, so I mean, for me personally, I think the kind of the opposite as far as like Fausto said. Franco Tiradores had a decent game. I actually think it more so showed how good MR is now. Pretty much, I mean, I got to rewatch the video on this match. Rio and Exodus, that I mean, we kind of touched on them a few weeks ago, I believe. That combination has been pretty lethal, man. It's giving a lot of people a lot of trouble. They were the main, like, players that were breaking open the battles, kind of the shining stars on that team. As far as for Franco, like I said, I think this is just showing more so that they're kind of starting to take that nosedive, especially now losing Mecca, who arguably is going to be their best player. So they lose their best player now. You're going to really relying on Hop, who was one of your top players, but now has to be your best player. I just think that it's a bad sign for them, and it's like I said, just a better moment, I think, for MR, showing that they're consistently improving every single week. And just shout out to them, man. They beat a whole bunch of veterans, guys like Apollo, Sabo, people that, say these guys are some of the top players that have played the game, and they just lost. So big shout out to them. Good win.
Okay, Angelus, once again, as one of the individuals that played in this game, what were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, going in, Franco's been our most consistently used SB partners throughout the weeks since the season started. So we're familiar with some of their key player tendencies. Like Bax, for example, wants to be aggro. We know this going in. So a lot of the calls in our comms are like, there he goes, or this guy's coming out. Everyone focus him and get to cheat some kills here. I thought the game was off to a little bit of a rough start in the first 4 minutes. We got impatient, kind of looking for him around Mesa controller, and suddenly we all lose vision. And then 10 seconds later, they're pushing north. We were just too hesitant to step forward and see they had abandoned south. That actually happened twice in the same game against the same team, and we fell for it both times. But they kind of flooded us north at the beginning. I got picked off because I made a bad decision of flooding southeast. I should have just ran northeast and stalled. But, I'm learning as we go. After that, actually, some things that don't show up in the scores, but like Hearth, who we talked about in the first game, Hearth landed 100 damage law to open up our comeback fight at the bottom. He landed it right beyond a controller into the rocks at South Mesa, and he killed 1, I think it was. And once we had the number advantage there, we got huge cleanup kills coming over the top and pushing bottom. So shout out to him. We kind of thought at one point of the game, I think we were up almost 20. It was like 16 or something. I was thinking, okay, this game's steady. Then the same thing that's plagued us in other weeks, ammo came back. And our Ripper's totally out of ammo. He's just clicking, holding down his, whatever buttons assigned. 2 of our Marines are down to like sub 50 ammo, and we're just scrambling to figure that out. So luckily we did learn you can sub people from week 1. So we started subbing people. That took a little longer than I was expecting and kind of cost us a couple fights where I thought we just won a battle. The subs can get back within the 5-second subs. They can get back before the team makes it across the map. The subs actually, they were accepted and then happened maybe 25 seconds later. By then Franco's pushing back into us and we're down a number. So I felt bad about that, but lessons learned every week. It's been fun to play. Shout out to Franco. It was a good game. They did make a pretty good storm back there at the end. I saw the highlight by Mecca where he came up and flanked half our team and killed him in North Mid. That was pretty sick. But yeah, I was glad we were able to hold it out. You guys mentioned Axie's been a monster. Rio is this all business monster for us who just came out of nowhere and said, hey, I want to play with you guys. He comes into our games, and with Albert taking main lead and then Rio kind of just grabbing secondary and micromanaging our fights, things have gotten a lot more cozy in the past couple weeks. So hopefully we can keep up the momentum and see what happens next week.
Yeah, fair enough. I will say, and I think I already talked or touched base with you about it. You guys had a chance to take the lead earlier than when you did, when you guys picked off one of the meds. I'm not sure who it was, and they were down a med, and you guys could have easily pushed 8v7 with only one med, and you guys just kind of held off. I think at the time the score was like 6-5. But the very next play, you trapped them right outside their baselines and cleaned up and took the lead from there. I will say that, it does suck making subs and then having to sit there and wait for 20 plus seconds. That should not be a thing. I get that real life stuff happens, so whoever was reffing might have gotten, something happened that they weren't able to get to it right away, but, obviously Franco took advantage of that and was able to climb back within 10 kills. Axie again had a big game on Ripper. Rio's just doing Rio things and hard carrying. Chompy had a much better performance this week than he's shown the last few weeks, so big ups to him. And yeah, you guys coming away with the win and looking at third seed, and as the only person that predicted in their preseason rankings that you guys would be third seed, I'm pretty happy about it. But the next match of the night was a snooze fest. I will say it was Cocaine versus Dark Slayers, 28-27. MVP was CC. Fausto, take it away, man. You were the one leading for DS.
So overall, it was we were going to test the waters in the beginning versus Cocaine. We knew they were going to be aggressive off the rip. And so we saw that they pushed south.
Don't lie.
What?
Cocaine aggressive? Come on, man.
Come on, man. Say that for After Dark, man. Come on now. Which, by the way, shout out to all the After Dark people. All the commentators from After Dark are here. Love us or hate us on USL Live. You're still here listening in. That's all I'm going to say. So anyways, back to the match. Overall, Cocaine played very aggressive. They kept pounding it south. So the thought process was continue to stabilize down south. We set up a little Jersey Boys play down southwest of Weed that kind of helped us catapult us into a few kill lead. Overall, I was happy with our performance. Nobody was drunk, I will say that much. So shout out to my squad there. I was very surprised that Cocaine kept going south because I had some people up north, and that never really transpired. I think we did shut down their solo angle in Mountain pretty decisively that match, and that's not a shot to Mountain overall, but just that he was out of position because we were catching him off guard, which is why he had the deaths that he had. I think we lost our balance a little bit, probably about the 20 minutes into the match, where we lost a couple at Weed, and I had a team in mid, and so Cocaine started killing us in groups of twos, including myself, for that matter, right outside of our baselines. I had a dumb death there, and some of my people had deaths as well. So I told everybody to just take a deep breath, relax, let's regroup. When we went ahead and went to the last battle, our goal was to obviously push them back because they just kept pushing underneath rock, and so we would pretend to fall back, and we'd push back in, and we'd usually pick one off. So once we got the opening kill over top, I believe it was, on top of Mesa, and they were south the controller, we continued to push. Now, the controversy, or not the controversy, but our opportunity is on those last two kills that we got by Cocaine's base. So, talking through this, we killed the last two people right outside their baselines. Luckily, at this point, unlike last week, we were able to cross the rape lines. So we crossed the rape lines, and so my thought process was, let's go northwest, which is where they're going to be. But one of our guys had mentioned, I just saw them respawn in their dropship. Let's go kill them, right? So that's where we went there. For those wondering, I'm sure the spec chat was blowing up. Why we waited there was because we were under the assumption that Pister and I think it was Victim were still in the dropship. Nonetheless, we were wrong. So we chased and we were just out of position. And just like in Dark Slayer's fashion, unfortunately, we lose by one. We lost by one to Cocaine. We lost by one to Macrodata. We lost to one to Sparta last season and to Birds last season as well. So it's a reoccurring theme that's unfortunate for us, but we just gotta be able to finish these 30-minute matches consistently. So that's all I'm gonna say. Overall, great game to Cocaine and company. You all played consistently well throughout the match, and you all kept it close with us.
All right, fair enough. Hider Troll, Easoe, go ahead.
Yeah, man, I got to listen to some of this match. It's from what I heard, it seemed like Cocaine was really just struggling to push that south. Surprised, as Fausto was saying, not sure why. I know they probably had a solo angle up north, but why they didn't send multiple people up north to try and break it? Because that south is pretty hard to just break, regardless of what you try and do. If you have good players down there, they're going to be able to hold that push. And as far as for Dark Slayers, I think it was kind of as expected. That shouldn't have surprised Cocaine as far as how they were playing, even if they were camping or playing passive. It's kind of ironic, honestly. But yeah, like I said, nobody should have been surprised. I am pretty surprised at how close this game was. But I am happy to see that Kaga showed up. He looks like he had a decent game. And then followed by King and Brillhart. But outside of that, like Uni at 3-1's okay, but no one else really had a great game. Gotta definitely call out Fausto, man. 2-5. Even if you are leading, you gotta at least break even, or to give you guys a really good chance to beat these kind of squads, especially when it's a one-kill game. So definitely kind of fix that, and I think that's definitely going to go a long ways as far as giving you guys those wins against these top squads. And then as far as Cocaine, like I said, didn't really get to see much, but looking at the scores, I do want to say a huge shout out to Danny, 5-1. That definitely pops out. I think he even said himself he was struggling these past few weeks, and just to see him post a 5-1 and pretty much do the best on the team for that game and that such an important match is really cool to see. But other than that, I think definitely big game for Dark Slayers. Unfortunate game for Cocaine. I feel like they probably should have won by more, even despite not having that top lineup.
Okay, Angelus.
Yeah, you kind of opened up this game saying it was a snooze fest, but I guess I'm just CTF mentality different. I thought this was the most fun game I've watched all season. I mean, obviously, our game against Dark Slayers, I was engaged in listening, but just as a pure neutral spectator, I thought this game was awesome. I think it was a 55 kill game, but it stayed so tense the entire game where my group was watching on Discord together. It's like, oh, this team's in the lead by one. This team's back in the lead by one. It's tied again. And that just made every fight feel so much more impactful than these 30 or 40 point wins. The coolest thing for me to see it was actually the extended battle that happened in the top left, like northwest of SL North, I guess it's called, where we've never seen any team fight around that brown building. And at some point, I think Darkslayers had a lead or it was tied, and they had a couple people in there. And then this huge fight broke out, and it took multiple minutes. And at some point, Tiro got picked off. He was the first one dead, I think. And then no one died in this 8-7 fight, I think, for the longest time. Tiro comes back, but Mountain was waiting for him. And Mountain like ambushes him and they kill him again while this fight's happening. So I thought that was really cool to see a fight happen up there. It is crazy that, back to back Dark Slayers literally comes down to the last second. Like just watching from spec, I think it was Kevin was under attack. I thought he was dead. This was going to overtime. But, unfortunately they couldn't get the last kill. But I like these slow games as long as they stay close. I thought this was an awesome game.
I just want to say you just wanted to point out that Tyrael died twice in the same battle.
I was about to say, do you care who this guy is, man? You don't fool us for a second there, Angelus.
That's a good point out. Someone else had called it out. They said that's the first back-to-back death I've ever seen. I was like, I didn't even notice, but that's cool.
Yeah, a few things stood out to me. One, Kevin actually swapped off a nader at one point, which was interesting to see. I don't know if he made that call himself, if Pister made that call, but he swapped off for like one fight and then went back to nader. Another one involving Kevin, Typhoon had an ambush on him, like just outside of the baselines on that little mountain area behind the rock, and I think it was Fausto that was crossing him, and just Typhoon fumbled hard, and then ended up dying to him, right? That would have been a cleanup kill, and then you guys are 8v7. Havoc was, I don't know if he was just getting frustrated with the play style or what. There was one play where he was way out in front. It was like just left of Mesa, those two rocks. He was way out in front of Kaga, and I forget who the other Marine was. Just underneath that far left rock, just getting focused out, dies, and then you guys have to fall. The other thing I noticed as well, you guys could have ambushed Mountain, and I know that's why you had the ambush in that C3 building, the brown building. I think it was Brohart, Uni, and Abath. They just sat there. Like, Mountain committed to a certain extent to where if they just pushed out of the building and somebody made that call, you guys could have killed SV, who had the top angle on you guys, and they just never came out. So that was very weird to see. Fausto, you already touched on, like, you thought they were still in the dropship, which is why you didn't go northwest, which is why unfortunately you weren't able to get that last like tying kill or even those two kills on Pister, and I think you said it was Victim. I say it was a snooze fest just because I just don't like the sitting by baseline thing. That's it. It's lame to me. But still, it was a good game overall, 28-27, with, again, the MVP being CC. So moving on to the final match of the night, it was Franco versus K-Dude. Go ahead, Fausto.
Yeah, I'm not going to say much about this match here. The score is indicative of exactly how the game played out. It was kind of a dominant performance by K-Dude, as everybody expected. I think Franco was a bit demoralized going into this game because they had a decent game and a decent showing between MDR, and you could tell. I mean, you can tell that they're not pacing themselves properly. We got some people pushing, some people falling back, and so, like I said, we knew what was going to happen, and it kind of happened. So I'm not going to touch too much on this match.
Okay, Easoe.
Yeah, this one was pretty rough to watch. I was just surprised at how dominating the win was. I did expect Franco to actually keep it a little bit closer, at least more so towards the beginning of the game, and at least, make it a match, for the first 10 to 15 minutes. But unfortunately, from start to finish, this was just, taking them to the woodshed. Um, but like I said, it's just it sucks because Franco lost their best player. Unfortunately, they're gonna probably take kind of a nosedive from here, and hopefully they could just kind of get it together and start kind of improving. For K Dude, it's just as expected. It was pretty cool to see TG on LMG and show out, and then Eric again had a great game, and then also Iron finally he had a great game, and kind of played the way we expected him to play.
Okay, Angelus.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar read. I think Franco may have been a little demoralized coming into this game, and then their pacing was just all over the place, where you'd see three of them pushing while the other five are backpedaling from the opposite angle. They just weren't really synced up for this game, and I'm guessing it had to do with the earlier loss. I don't know if there was drama. I don't know who leads during games and stuff, but I expected K-Dude to win this, but not by that much. I will also shout out TG's LMG. I've played against this in a few SBs with K-Dude, and I find it to be such a nuisance, and I mean that in the most respectful way I can, because in our squad, like, we use the LMG as part of a power group where we're going to push together with the group. I hate seeing TG spread out by himself, just on the edge to be annoying with the strongest gun in the game, and it just, like, it peels everyone apart, stretches them so thin, and it's so effective. So I hate it because, like, I can't get my head around it yet. We're not doing that. I can't do that. So it's all respect. It's a different way to deploy it. I've seen Kaga do it in some SBs as well. But just seeing the LMG become this solo role instead of this power group role, it's cool and annoying to play against. So shout out to those guys, and hopefully Franco can turn it around.
Yeah, I mean, I will say shout out to Cocaine, because without our loss to you, Sav and TG wouldn't have gone back to paint plays and really try harden. The brain bug is back at work. So you guys saw us wrap around that east ambush that they had, all because of that first play that they had drawn up, and then from there it was just spread out and see where they come from. Sav being AT, going way up north, TG, myself, and I think Iron keeping the south, and then everybody else kind of in the middle. Yeah, I don't know what was going on. Mecca's saying Franco had different leaders for both games. I think that proves to be an issue, just because it completely different leadership styles. It could cause some confusion as to what people want to do, how people want to play. But yeah, it just there's not a whole lot to say other than they got to clean it up if they want to possibly get fourth or fifth seed in these coming weeks. Once again, the score was 83-22. MVP was Iron. So before we go into the week 4 matches, again, I just want to touch on the current standings, which right now you have Cocaine first, 4-0. K-Dude and MDR both 2-3 respectively at 3-1. And then Dark Slayers and Franco are 1-3, and Evolution is 0-4. Let's go into our top 3 players for the week. If you guys need time to go ahead and think of some, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll go back down the list like we normally do. Fausto, who are your top 3 players of the week? If you need time, you can just say skip.
Tyrael. No, I'm just messing with you, Angelus. Top 3 players. I mean, I'm gonna say obviously a given. It's gonna be Legacy, aka Rio, 100% consistent week over week. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. That's gonna be number 1. I will also say that I'm gonna go ahead and give it to Exodus. He really surprised me in that second game against Franco there, 8-3. I think he only got subbed out because he did not have any ammo, from what I remember, which is
Yeah.
crazy because I mean Ripper has a lot, a lot of ammo
Yeah.
to disperse, right? And number 3, I'm gonna go ahead and say Victim, just because I mean he had I think the second most heal points in that match, and we never caught him out of position. Um, he's very rarely ever out of position, and so I'm gonna pick those 3.
Okay, Easoe?
For me, 2 of them were in actually the same match, which would be Rio, as Fausto mentioned. He had a great game there. Hop, he went 12-7 in that same exact match. I feel like he had a lot of laws and some good kills that actually kept him in the match for a majority of it. And the last one, I'm actually going to say Danny. I mentioned him earlier, but that 5-1, I feel like is a pretty big game, and it was nice to see him kind of show out in an important match.
Okay, Angelus?
Yeah, I'll finish the trifecta and agree that it's a Rio. Realistically, I could probably just give Rio MVP to any game we win so far, because he's just calming presence regardless of the score. He's always making what seems to be the right call, and his skill is way beyond what most of us have. So he's definitely my one. I'll actually give it to Mountain, and it's not like I think he's finished 5-5 or 6-6 in the game, but it seemed like he was starting on a rough note. He's like 1-4 or 1-5, but to then be in a deficit against Darkslayers, who was playing slow, trying to set up ambushes, but he still had the confidence to keep pushing and make plays happen. He eventually climbed out of that, and I don't know, I just thought it was a great game. And then, like I said before, TG just holding it so thin that you want to push him, but you can't push him, and then you're going to regret not pushing him because LMG damage is crazy. So, yeah, those 3 for me.
All right, just because everybody else said Legacy, I'm gonna. He was on mine, but I'll skip it. I'll say Exodus, Iron, and Danny are my 3. Iron went 8-2 as a medic against Franco, keeping us alive as well. Danny popping off, as Easoe already said, 5-1 in a big game. Good to see. I think it's because we're not hyping him up anymore. The pressure's not there, so he's able to perform. I don't think any of us chose him for fantasy, so he feels that relief. Um, and yeah, I mean, everybody else. I mean, like you said, SV had a good rebound to the game, but I think Danny was just consistent in that matchup. All right. Before we go into week 4 as well, I just want to touch on this bullshit schedule. Because why am I playing Evolution a second time before I play MDR a first time? And why are we not having rematches on the same map we play? If the maps are going to be up for 2 weeks, why am I not playing Cocaine again on EC, just flipped, right? Because if we beat Cocaine by X amount of kills or whatever, if that were to happen, it's going to be completely different on EC versus I think we played them on Mountains map. So there's that going on. Anybody want to touch on this? Crickets.
I'm not too sure like the thought process on the schedule. I mean, for this season, 100% obviously, but I will say that it's very hard to do that. I mean, this is the longer season than most. I mean, we haven't had 6 squads in a while. Um, I mean, I think it's been a couple of seasons, but I mean, to appease that, it's going to be difficult. There are going to be some outliers, some stragglers, like you just said. Evolution twice versus MDR. I haven't actually checked Dark Slayer schedules to see if we have the same type of outlier as you do. I'm sure we will. Maybe second half of the season. But I don't know. I mean, if that's the case, it's something we need to go back to the drawing boards and discuss.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this as well for those that were questioning how ratings are calculated, Joe and Havoc. I can guarantee that the competition factor is messed up because we are playing certain squads before we play another squad, and also the double headers are also messing up ratings as well. So if you guys still have questions about it, that's a big indication as to what's getting messed up there as well. If anybody else has anything, go ahead and chime in. If not, we can move on to week 4 matches. Angelus,
I
Easoe?
will. I'll say just really briefly. I mean, I agree with you. It kind of sucks that we're going to be playing, Franco here again. I feel like we just played them, and that was literally 2 weeks ago. So it would be cool if we could avoid that in the future. But other than that, I mean, I am happy we have more matches than we've ever had. So
Yeah. Angelus, you got anything, or are we moving?
Yeah, I mean, because it's my first season, I wasn't sure if it's usually like a perfectly set schedule where there's an equal gap between every team. I saw the schedule and realized it did seem odd that we're playing Dark Slayers essentially in 2 weeks. We're playing them twice. But to play them before K-Dude, I don't think that part matters so much. I will say I was hoping that we'd get to play Dark Slayers later in the season because I do feel like we keep getting better. But it's time to put up, so we'll play them again on Sunday and just let it go.
Okay, fair enough. And Bowen says easy fix, let the league schedule 1 match per squad per week and have 2 week longer schedule when no one wants the 8:45 and 11:45 time slot anyways. Fair. But I think even still with double headers, you could have made it to where each squad plays each other once before doubling up on the rematches. So there's something going on there. I don't know if your AI generation just didn't pick it up or what the case may be. But moving on to week 4, the first match that's scheduled is going to be Cocaine versus Evolution. This is going to be another rough week for Evolution, by the way. But go ahead, Fausto.
I mean, you never know. I mean, Bowen might have set all this up to just find a reason to quote unquote go AFK. You know, you never know. Bowen's very methodical, guys. He's very methodical man. But no, all jokes aside, I think it's going to be like you mentioned, Eric, a tough fourth week for Evolution. This is going to be a landslide victory. It's not even going to be close. I think that Cocaine's going to continue to push the hell out of Evolution, and they're going to break 100 kills. I really do hope that Bowen really slows it down to try to keep this game respectable. And even if they're annoying plays, unorthodox play style, whatever you have to do, Bowen, just slow it down for the sake of keeping it competitive. And please play your top 8 players the entire 30 minutes. Now, If Cocaine is up by 60 or 70, by all means, go ahead and sub whoever you want to, but just try to give yourself some confidence boost. And if it's not for you, give it to your guys because they show up every single week, and I think they deserve a little morale booster because it's difficult to take a beating every single week.
Okay, fair enough. Easoe?
Yeah, it's as you had mentioned, a tough draw for Evolution this week, unfortunately. I mean, the only really saving grace is it's KS10. Run around, the map is pretty big. The vision is pretty bad, so just try and run around. Honestly, I would try and avoid as many fights as possible. I know it sounds lame, but they're at that point where, you know what, they gotta do whatever they can to even just win a battle. To me, that'll be a victory for them, even just winning a few battles, especially against a K-Dude or a Cocaine. So slow it down. Do everything you can to just I always say it to them, put themselves in the position to where they're pushing chokes against, Evolution to try and capitalize. And for some reason, they'll do it for 5 minutes, but they can't do it for 30. So hopefully they could just, stick to it and at least keep it competitive.
Okay, Angelus?
Yeah, I definitely agree with slowing it down. I think Evolution really just needs to split a little bit more because, like we talked about just a week ago, they had a really great opening play against K Dude where they get an ambush and win. But 10 minutes into that game, again, it's just 8 people moving around as one unit. So you're giving up all these possible angles where you're taking hits and you're turning down like output angles to deliver hits. Yeah, especially on this map, like my squad's found it nice to play 4-4 essentially so far. We've done some other formations, but it kind of boils down to 4-4 for us in that first week on the map. I think they should try something similar. Don't walk around as 8 people. At least grab 2 different angles before you take a big fight against the team and get different results.
I tend to disagree. Against a team like Cocaine, their best option is to kind of like what Easoe was saying, to win a fight like they did against us on EC. Ambush with just about everybody on your team with one person getting vision. Obviously, most teams will kind of catch on to that, but if they can find a spot that isn't normally an ambush spot, they can catch people off guard. I don't think they win it in any scenario where it's a 4-on-4. I think Cocaine just has the better firepower. So they need to get those ambushes going. They need to get those odd numbers to really have a chance to winning some battles. Right. I do think this is still going to be kind of a blowout. Cocaine's probably going to win by like 60 plus kills. So moving on to the next match of the week, because all the other games are kind of meh, is the rematch of Dark Slayers versus MDR. Fausto, what are your thoughts on this one?
This is going to be a fun match. I think it's going to be definitely a match of the week. I think if anything else, even though all squads make playoffs, which it's interesting. I think it's more bragging rights. I mean, at the end of the day, Macrodata is up 1-0 to Dark Slayers, and so we're hoping to tie it up going into playoffs. I think that it's going to be very key to suppress the Ripper in Exodus as well, because while Macrodata does have good positioning, they do know how to slow it down, and even if they may have an advantage, as Angelus mentioned earlier, they may not push either because they don't know the map all that well, or they're just maybe a little hesitant to do so. So we're gonna have to think of ways to maneuver around them, and I think that's gonna be where we're gonna shine, is our maneuverability throughout the map. Um, I think Eric, you had mentioned last week or a couple weeks ago that while microdata is great, they do surround them. They let themselves be surrounded from time to time, and that's where we need to take advantage of that. We're gonna obviously focus on people that play out of position, which in microdata's case, not many of them kind of just push out forward. They kind of wait for Rio to lead the charge, and they kind of follow suit. Which in that case, Rio never really is out of position. We're going to be honing in on our explosives, our laws, our nades, and just trying to push them in awkward scenarios that maybe they're not accustomed to. I'm going to rely heavily on players like Kaga, Typhoon, and Shas to help open the battles. I think our medics have been playing great throughout the season. I don't think my guys get enough credit. I think it's going to be a slower paced game, just like our first encounter was. I'm gonna, call me biased on this one, but I'm gonna give it to Dark Slayers. I think we're going to win, not by a landslide. I think it's going to be within a battle. I'm going to say we're going to win by 6 kills, and the last battle is going to determine the winner.
Okay, Easoe?
Yeah, this is a pretty exciting match. I'm ready for this this round two, especially now finding out that there's that beef going on that I had no idea about before. So I'm pretty excited again for this match. The one thing I do hope though is that both of these guys, or I should say mostly Dark Slayers, will show their top lineup. Kaga showing up, and pretty much the lineup they had last week. I want them to show that next week, and this is going to be a very entertaining match, just like the first one was. I definitely see um, a close match, but I think in the end, MR is actually gonna take it. I think Exodus and Rio are going to be a little bit deadly and too much to handle. And since MR is actually going to be playing, their absolute top lineup, and they're going to want to win this match, they're going to be, kind of not only practicing all week, but they want to show out on Sunday and kind of be clicking on all cylinders. And we mentioned and talked about it earlier is that they're improving week by week. They're honest being every single night. So I definitely just see them improving instead of dropping off. As far as Dark Slayers, like I said, unfortunately, yeah, they've got up to a rough start, and I think um, just like those other two matches that were close that they lost, this is going to be another one of those that's going to be a nail biter, and unfortunately, they're going to lose it. I do expect a big game, as I mentioned, from Kaga. Hopefully, he shows. Honestly, if he doesn't show, I don't think Dark Slayers has a chance. So he's going to be pretty much crucial. And then also, hopefully Simp could kind of step it up. He's pretty important as far as the med department. They're going to need him to have some big heals. But in the end, I think they're just going to fall a little bit short, and MR is going to take it by, I would say, about 5 kills.
Okay, Angelus?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, we just played these guys a couple Sundays ago, so I don't love seeing them right now, but it's time to see them, I guess. Uh, whatever happens this game, we won't get to see them again until playoffs, and I don't know what the playoff bracket will end up looking like, but this will be our last time playing them in the regular season. Uh, I think the upside to having it now is Darkslayers won't SB us during the week on match week, and well, that's not a problem. It's just like an annoyance because I can only beg Cocaine and Franco and K Dude for all these SBs during the day, and Darkslayers will play us off match week. So at least once this is out of the way, we can SB with them more regularly going forward. I think Fausto had a pretty good read on it. I think it's going to be kind of a slow game. We are very susceptible to being surrounded. That happened in the first game, and they gave up the lead. Hopefully, it doesn't happen again. I think it'll come down to maybe like 6 or 7 kills, but I think whichever team has the lead, they're gonna have it at like 13 or 12, and then they'll lose a fight as time's expiring to drop it to 6 or 7. So I think in the last 3 minutes or so, it's gonna be a two wipe kind of lead for someone. And I'm just hoping it's my guys.
Yeah, fair enough. And Foster, you're right. I did mention it, and I think that if it's not just about posturing and getting the angle and actually being aggressive with those angles and not kind of just sitting back, I think you guys could win this and pretty heavily, because yeah, they tend to sit around too much and you guys can just out angle them and kind of frazzle them a little bit, right? Do I see it happening? 50-50. I think I'm curious to see if Tyrael and his former Ripper expertise comes out because he sees Exodus doing it and everybody's talking about Exodus, and former Axe of Fury Tyrael's like, no, I'm the better Ripper. Let's see, type thing. So I'm curious to see if he plays AT, if he plays Ripper, or if he brings out the Nader again. I agree with what Easoe said. Havoc has to have a better game than what he showed this last week. You can't be that out in front and getting focused out. Again, I don't know if he was just kind of frustrated or just saying, hey, we need the push, and he was just leading the charge, or what happened. But definitely need a bigger game from him. Need Manu to show up. And Kaga 100% needs to show up. If Kaga doesn't show up, put Shasta on LMG. That's the only class he's aggressive on. And that's still kind of 50-50 too, because he'll be in the back. Yeah, this is a tough call. If MDR plays their top lineup, I still give them the advantage. If you guys do somehow win, Fausto, you only need to win by 1 and you have the tie break for seeding. You just got to win more more games against the teams you're supposed to beat. But yeah, I think MDR is going to win by a battle. But after that, we have the next match, which will be Evolution versus K-Dude again, part 2. Fausto?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, we've all kind of reiterated one after another about what Evolution should do when they face these top tier squads. It's either posture up, ambush, and/or bait the top tier squad into some sort of choke or a pathway where it's hard to fall back from. And so that's going to be the only way that they keep this close for the first couple of battles. I think Eric, you mentioned it earlier that Cocaine beating K-Dude has really brought out the bloodlust in your captains or your squad leaders in game. And so I see another 70 to 80 kill blowout differential in favor of K-Dude. I think it's not going to be close. I do see if they put DP in, I can see him, getting 8 or 9 kills. I can see Bowen's been playing well all season individually, right? I think those two guys you got to rely on and shoot who they're shooting, right? But yeah, it's not going to be a fun game to watch, but hopefully it's under 40 differential.
Okay. Easoe?
Sorry, which match are we on? Somebody sent me a good mailbag question.
Evolution versus K-Dude.
Oof. Okay. Yeah, this is gonna be rough. Honestly, not gonna say too much about this match. We kind of touched on it earlier. Just honestly, run around, man. Stay away. Try and win the battle. Any battle you can is honestly a win. It's gonna be a rough week for them, so hopefully they could just keep it close. And honestly, just happy that they're showing up every week. But for K-Dude, honestly, you pretty much know what's going to happen. They're going to show out. What's really nice is you guys have been showing, this pretty much the same lineup every week. Other than Revenge and Tactical, you guys kind of swapped them out from last week. But you guys have been consistent, and you see it in your guys' play. You're getting better and better, and I think by playoffs and even that Cocaine rematch is going to be very fun to watch.
Yeah. Angelus?
Yeah, not much to say on this one either. That's a tough week for Evolution to play the number 1 and the 2 team on the same week. So sorry for them. Hope they can get some ambush kills, make some highlights. Let it be fun for the players. Hopefully they can keep it within 50 kills.
This mailbag question. Yeah. Fuck. Yeah, no, I think they will run around and stall for kind of like 3 to 5 minutes before Sov scouts them out on the AT, and then we surround them, wrap them up, and keep them contained in their lines again, like we did on EC. Um, is Iceman gonna run into a single stream again? Who knows? Time will tell. Stay tuned next time for the next episode of Dragon Ball Z. Moving on to the next match of the week, the final match is going to be Bax versus Kevin and Pister, man. Cocaine versus Franco. Talk to me, Fausto.
Well, I mean, let's see what the match gets scheduled for, because apparently they can't schedule a match. And so, I mean, without Jordan, I mean, Franco really loses a few notches on the belt. I'm going to give him that. Not that it was going to be too close prior, but it was going to be a slightly competitive match. Franco Tierra versus Cocaine. Once again, similar to K-Dude versus Evolution, I'm going to give a landslide victory in favor to Cocaine. My 2 players to watch on each squad for this match for Franco Tiradores, I'm going to go ahead and say that the player to watch is going to be Pandy on this one. I think he's been leading a couple of matches, maybe early on in the season, but I mean, they're using him for his veteran knowledge as well as battle opening skills. So they're going to rely on Pandy. For Cocaine, player to watch is going to be Easoe. I think that Easoe is a huge mega factor for Cocaine. I don't think he played last week against Dark Slayers, and I think it wouldn't have been as close if Easoe played. I think they're going to rely heavily on him. I think where Cocaine's going to, really pull away is when they start getting those advancement on the solo flanks for Mountain. But I feel like they're going to have Mountain and maybe even Leak or Pist or solo flank. It's going to be a double solo flank because they know they're going to be comfortable enough to be able to hold 6v8. Overall, I hope it's a fun match to watch. I doubt it. I think the morale's low with francotiradores. So I hope it's just not a blowout.
All right, Easoe.
Yeah, some breaking news here. Mecca joined cocaine as of like 2 minutes ago. So just want to say welcome, buddy. But yeah, this is going to be a rough match for Franco. As I mentioned, they just literally lost their best player. Not sure if he's going to be eligible to play this week, but doesn't really matter. Cocaine should still be able to pull this match out, and it's going to be definitely a lot wider margin than the first match. I definitely see like 20 to 25 kill margin. As far as Franco, hopefully, we kind of touched on it. They could kind of pull together and keep us being and kind of just turn it around. Unfortunately, right now they're kind of sitting towards the bottom at 1-3. So going towards the playoffs, you definitely want to be playing a bit better. So hopefully, they could just start us being and turning it around. But as far as cocaine, kind of a close match last week. Honestly, was impressed that they pulled that one out. So it was really nice to see that. And I think this is going to be kind of like their get back match and kind of, erase last week from their memory. So big win by Cocaine.
All right, Angelus.
Yeah, I think what I'm most interested in is with Mecca joining, and I think he's not eligible to play unless the waiver or something. But he's just coming from Franco. He worked with them through the last week on the same map, so he's kind of got their playbook, as I would describe it. I don't know if it's like a community thing in skirmish where he's not going to tell the new squad exactly what Franco's going to do, but he knows it going into this week. So I feel like Franco's got to kind of reinvent a strategy for this week from scratch, get away from whatever they worked with on Mecca in the past week. But I don't see Franco being able to bounce back on this game. We talked about their morale seemed a little low after they lost to us, and then they got blown up by K Dude. I think Cocaine's just too good at this point for most squads in the league, Franco included, unfortunately. So I'm expecting Cocaine to take this one pretty comfortably, maybe 40, 50 kills.
Yeah, I'll start by saying one. Yeah, Pister just said it in spec chat. There is no playbook with backs leading. He just kind of runs around and looks lost. But I guarantee you, Bax is not going to waive NTs, so Mecha will be sitting in spec 100%. Bax won't let him play. Not that that's going to matter. I agree. Cocaine should win this by roughly 20 to 30 kills. I don't see it really being close unless Hop just plays his ass off and Sabo unrusts because he took like a 2-week vacation, probably on a cruise somewhere. So hopefully, those guys can show up, keep it close for a little bit. But then I again think the firepower from Cocaine is going to be too much for them to really contest with. And again, losing your primary shot caller with whoever is leading is a huge hit. And yeah, it's not going to be fun for Franco. So moving on to the mailbag now. I had like 6 questions wrapped into one about Mecca leaving Franco and the impact on Franco. I think we already touched on all that as we were discussing these matches and our predictions here. So I'm going to scrap that one. I will say this, though. This question can still remain. What is leading to the underperformance of Franco? What do you guys think? All right, I'll say backs.
I was gonna say, yeah, you kind of hit it there. Backs would be number one. And I honestly, that would be the main issue. He kind of has to. He's their captain, so you can't be going 3-10 or whatever he's doing, being out in front and getting punished for it. So, yeah, would say him, and then hopefully that leadership could kind of, turn it around.
Yeah.
I would say that as a captain of a squad, you have to kind of forego your own rating, your own ratios in games. And I think at the end of the day, Bex likes to be the number one player, whether it's in game or in pub or yada yada yada. And so he values how he performs over how his squad performs, which doesn't really trickle down and doesn't allow for buy-in from his squad mates. I think this was a perfect season for Bex to really show what he can do with a capable squad because at the end of the day, he has some capable players on his squad, but it all starts from the top. Love him or hate him, you still have to be a commanding presence within your squad and not either be baited into trolling or troll yourself. Just stay level-headed and work on ways to win, and I don't think that's being done with Franco.
Yeah, I'll expand on why I said backs. And you mentioned foregoing ratio and rating. What ratio and rating when you're going 3 and 10? Especially now, if you're stuck being kind of like the main leader, you cannot be dying that many times or even first in the battles because you got to be the one directing the, the fight. But yeah, that's really kind of it. Um, for that one, Angelus, you got anything?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the inner workings of Franco or how Bax captains a squad. I don't know much of Bax other than he's been cool for us to work with and open to helping, giving us SBs. I don't know what the commitment level is there. I know in SBs he's always very chill, like let's have a good time, play a video game, and I think that's a different approach than a lot of us have. Like we're taking this a lot more seriously because we're just turbo nerds, where we're spending hours throughout the week doing VOD reviews and stuff. I don't know if Franco's doing that or they're just logging in and letting it run. If it's the latter, I think that would kind of explain the difference in performances where we're just maybe overly prepared for this old video game we all enjoy playing, whereas they're taking it a little bit more lightly than we are, so they're getting those results.
All right, Foster, you got any mailbags?
Yeah, I have a few. I guess we're gonna kind of go
Yeah,
back and forth, right?
we'll
Okay.
rotate it.
So this one is for Easoe directly. Now let me go ahead and read it. I'm gonna just read it verbatim. Can you ask Easoe directly what the deal is with him sitting on secret aliases while his team is playing? Those go back multiple seasons, all the way to Hungry Beavers. Should his teammates put up with his behavior or just kick him for his unreliability?
I'll answer it. I was actually in for like 10 minutes, no, 5 minutes, and I was actually gone for up until like 10 minutes for the match. I mean, honestly, I just feel like people care too much. I showed like every week last week. Some people unfortunately can't show every single week, to every single game. If you can, more power to you.
Every single week last week, bud. Sorry, I
I mean,
had to say it.
last season, my bad. Yeah, last season I showed to every match.
uh, yeah, no, I mean this is. I mean, Iso told me what he was doing, so I understand. Not wanting to log on your main alias and say, "Hey, come play." He's like, "Nah, I gotta run out real quick and do something." So I get it. But Iso, you said you got a mailbag question.
Oh man, I do.
Oh boy.
Let me pull it up.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I think we're all getting roasted today. Hold on.
Oh, sweet. Let's go. Bring it on, Split.
All right, so it says, as many players know, Eva, aka Ice Princess, has an exciting TikTok and YouTube channel full of both
Oh,
infantry and selfie footage. If you look through the views and comments, Fausto's name pops up extremely frequently. Do do commentators think Fausto is sexually attracted to Eva, or is he simply an innocent, loyal fan?
big white women need loving too, all right, Fausto?
Did you really say that? Big white women? Jesus. We're about to be canceled here, Eric. Relax. No. I don't leave comments on her videos, but yeah, she can do whatever she'd like. I'd rather not get canceled, so I'm not gonna say too much about that situation. But I appreciate the shout out. And no, for the record, I do not have a crush on her. I will say that.
Then I'll say I've never visited her, like any of the YouTube channels or any of the like whatever she creates, so I have no idea.
No, Jordan, I'm not sliding into DMs at all. But I mean, you know what they say. If she ain't 280, she ain't a lady.
All right. I'm going to read this one verbatim. This one is aimed more towards the CTFers, but anyone can answer. How do you feel about the rotating of maps throughout the season, and how do you feel it has/will impact your season? Could something like this be done in CTF to add more variety? Angelus, as the main CTF
Yeah,
on the panel?
that's a really cool question. I think the difference in how the maps play out in skirmish versus CTF is in CTF, like once the matches start, we only use maybe 10% of the map. Like there's a base on each side, the teams anchor at the bases, and the rest of the map is empty for most of the game. So if it was going to be some sort of rotating system in CTF, it would need to be condensed maps with just like 2 bases or maybe 3 max per side, and then you could actually get more gameplay across them. How it's impacting CTFers migrating to skirmish, I think I can answer that one. It's not great for me because we're learning a lot of these maps. The first time I see them is when they come out, unless someone sent me a screenshot with the names. So it's a lot of fun to actually change the maps, and I've enjoyed the second map much more than we did the first map. I spent so many SBs fighting at the rocks of EC, I wanted to fucking throw my monitor through the window. But I enjoy the open map we're on right now. At least it feels open to me in the fights we've taken on it. But I will look forward to the next map, whatever it is. I don't know. I think it's Mountains map, and half people like it, half people hate it. It's going to be new for about 8 of us on my team, so it's a new experience. But yeah, it's hard to adjust to, but we're enjoying it so far.
All right. Anybody else got anything on that question?
The only thing I was going to say is it's kind of a double-edged sword because for us who have been playing this league for a while, it's kind of refreshing to have, a few different maps throughout the season. So personally, I enjoy it, and obviously it depends what maps you throw in there because some are pretty bad. So that can also, kind of go both ways. But like, Angelus is saying, for newer players, it's going to be a little bit tougher because it's so many different maps in one season. So maybe just cutting it down to maybe a few maps throughout the whole season. But definitely, I enjoy it.
Fausto?
I wasn't listening. I was watching Eva's TikTok. Sorry.
Alright, you're good. Fucking troll. Alright, I mean, I agree. I agree with Easoe. It is nice because if I was playing EC all season, I'd probably skip half the season just because I hate that map. It's boring. Same with like Apollo's map. Those two maps play very similar, and it's just not fun. So it's nice to have some variety. Can we trim it down? Yeah, probably. But then in this instance, because there's 8 weeks, one map would have been up another week, type thing, right? So it is what it is. It does suck for newer players learning. In terms of CTF, I think it could definitely be done. Like Angelus had said, maybe almost like a pick ban type thing. For OVD or for the CTF draft league or whatever, like one team says, no, we're gonna ban H4 and whatever another base is, A5, whatever, and then the other two maps, right? So I think that would be an interesting dynamic to include into CTF, but they gotta work about condensing the map and then figuring out, okay, everybody spawns randomly as it is on the map. If we condense it, how much is that going to affect the regroups, the manual flanks that could happen, etc. So that there's a lot to go on that aspect, I think, for CTF. But I don't know too much about it. Fausto, you got any other mailbag questions?
Yeah, I have a couple more. Read it again verbatim. If macro data really does value their 20-year-old friendships, why don't they spec Rio, Yosh, and Champion put in Grump, Hollow, and Andrew versus Dark Slayers this coming week?
Yeah, I'll take that question happily. I keep mentioning I've got the spreadsheet set up and everyone gets playtime. So some of our people, they really don't want to play. They either can't stay up late enough, like Grump, for example, or I know him as Doc. He can't be staying up late on Sunday, so he keeps missing our matches, then heckling us Monday mornings about them. Andrew's playing on a resolution that is not at all fit for skirmish. So he's recording our games, watching a medic, and then we can see like maybe 25% on his feed from what we can see on ours, where a lot of us are playing 4K or 2560, whatever. So he doesn't really want to play because it's not a good feel for him right now. Maybe that changes. He gets a different setup and we'll gladly get him in. But really, outside of those two, Yosh was out in one of the games this weekend. I think Evolution. We got ZMN in. Still, I don't take too much offense to the questions. I think it came on the After Dark podcast. It was like, why is Angelus playing all these people and recruiting skirmishers? I can sleep easy at night because I haven't recruited a single skirmisher. These guys have contacted me and said, hey, I want to join your squad. And I'm like, hey, I don't know who you are. Anyone have a problem? And they join. So that's the case all the way from Yosh, Rio, Staley. I don't know if we have more, but yeah, it's a genuine thing where I'm just playing with the people who want to play and they're showing up. So I don't think we have drama like that inside the squad, but if people want to keep talking about it, have at it.
Okay.
just really briefly, I kind of mentioned it earlier. It kind of goes back to, like I said, not everybody's going to show to every single match. I mean, not everyone is going to have spreadsheets either, of your starting lineups every week. But you want to have players, a lot of players, to be able to sub in and out, preferably like K-Dude that are top players, because it's not going to be such a big drop off. But people like myself, or some people like to take vacations or go out and miss a week, and yeah, so you gotta have people to back you up.
I think the other thing too is it's kind of weird to say, but nerves come into play for a first time player in the USL, and some of them just don't want to deal with that and just kind of SB with their friends. You know what I mean? Like just play in the scrims, learn that way, as opposed to being perceived as a detriment in a real match. I think
Yep.
I think that's why Ruler might not have shown up. Maybe he feels like he might be a detriment, or like it's just some people just want SB. Not everybody wants to play in the matches.
No, I mean I mean that is a part of it for some people. Like I've had explicit conversations with people on the squad, and they're like, "Hey, if you're playing a game you think you're going to win by a lot, I'd love to join you guys and help out. And if things start to go bad, take me out." So people do want to win and everything, but at the same time, like I don't have 16 or 17 people on the roster who are begging to be in the starting eight. So I think everyone's happy with the way it is right now. Like I said, people are getting their play time. It's looking okay as far as my tracking and everything. But yeah, half season to go. We'll see.
Okay. Next question. With Fausto recently rejoining head staff, how do we feel about him already abusing his position to share information about aliases? Should staff/mods have a serious conversation with him to remind him of the rules? Is his claim of having high morale principles, fairness, and integrity nothing more than a lie? Fausto?
Wait, what? Who's the player?
I don't know. It doesn't say what player.
Oh,
Yeah.
but what was it? What was the first part of the statement? I didn't catch that.
Okay, with Fausto recently rejoining head staff, I'm assuming like being kind of perceived as another deputy admin again.
I guess can you read the question again? Read the question again, please.
Yeah. With Fausto recently rejoining head staff, how do we feel about him already abusing his position to share information about aliases? Should staff/mods have a serious conversation with him to remind him of the rules? Is his claim of having high morale, principles, fairness, and integrity nothing more than a lie?
I mean, I don't know what alias they're referring to, and I'm sure it's a bait question. I think Sav here is alluding to something I might not be too keen on, but yeah, I'm not too sure what the alias is about, but it did throw me for a loop. So good job whoever asked that.
Anybody got anything else on that one? It was more so just geared at Fausto, so I can understand if you don't. All right, Fausto, you got another question? Or I'm sorry, Easoe. Hold on, Easoe, you got any more questions?
Okay. Oh no, I'm good.
Okay, Fausto, go ahead.
Wait, does Angelus have any questions?
I doubt it.
I've just got one this week.
Oh, look at that!
Oh, there you go. There you go. Again, Eric, come on, man, let the man speak.
Yeah, it's a question for Eric, I think. Who would you say is the better? Who would you say is the better receiver? Amon-Ra St. Brown in football or Hearthbull catching laws in USL?
Hearthbull.
I think they're both pretty good. I'm a fan of both of them, to be honest. Big fan.
I would think you wouldn't be a fan of Hearth catching laws, but
I absolutely am.
He's clearly catching strays right now. Fausto, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, I know you can't sub people in and out for ammo like a nader, but MDR last night subbed Exodus out solely because he didn't have any ammo. Brought someone else in and then subbed him back in later. Wanted to know where the line is drawn, so we know.
Wait, repeat the first part?
I know you can't sub people in and out for ammo.
Can or can't?
Can't.
Yes, you can.
I'm just reading the question.
Yeah. No. I'm not saying that at you. Yes, you can. When has that ever been a rule to never sub people out for it? As long as they're not in a fight, engaged, or getting ready to be surrounded, you can do a sub for ammo. We did it. Fuck, when was it? Maybe 3-4 seasons ago. When we were fighting, I think, Pister's squad, and we all ran out of ammo, and Yosh spec'd himself and subbed himself out. So, like, there's never been a ruling against that. It's just
Oh
as
yeah, he
long
was
as
LMG, right?
I think so. It was on
He jumped on the
KR.
demo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was on KR. Because we got Posty in. It was Posty's time to shine. But yeah, no, I don't know who wrote that question, but clearly you're not reading the rules.
Anybody else?
Yeah, anybody else got anything to say on that?
No.
No.
Okay. Let's see. How will cocaine recover after the separation of Melanthro?
That's gonna be tough, man. When I was looking at our log, I was pretty sad to see he was gone. I didn't. Unfortunately, I never got to get in one of those late night sessions with him. A couple lines, a couple bumps. So R.I.P. Melantho. We'll miss you.
Okay.
Who is Melanthro? I'm not too sure who he is.
I honestly don't know either.
Who is
Melantho's a
that?
very old school CTFer who just
Oh,
recently
okay.
came back a couple months ago. And back in the day, Melantho was a female captain of Martyr, which is like a famous early CTFPL squad, and then came back as a middle-aged Asian man. So who knows what the hell's happening with that?
So that's where Champion went.
Well, could be.
No, it's a SK inside joke.
Okay.
I honestly, I've seen that person in the cocaine Discord, but I had never knew who that person was.
All right. Go ahead, Fausto.
Is the simplest solution for baselines just asking captains before a match if they'd like baselines active?
I mean, that's fair. I don't know.
I mean, it
I know.
kind of is.
Yeah, I know. There's a few topics being discussed in head staff forums about possibilities as to deal with the baselines. That was never brought up, so it's an interesting choice that could be made. But if they're active, how would we enforce the rule? It still comes back to that if they are chosen to be active, right? But nonetheless, still very interesting.
I think you're bringing a good point. I think that would be an option, but it doesn't fix the problem we actually have.
Correct.
I think there's a bigger problem, and it's not just squads such as Dark Slayers, for example, or players across the plans, including myself, but also how fast we expect our refs to actually do the specking and do the moderating of these matches. It's very difficult. I know it's easy to criticize staff members, especially referees, when they don't do a quote unquote good enough job, but it's a thankless job, and I wish more people would actually step up and try to help instead of hinder the league, because it does take to getting used to be able to oversee 16 players at any given time. And so, like, I do appreciate the question. I think that could be an option for if you want them active or not. But I also think that there's a bigger problem we need to address and possibly fix, aside from just answering that question.
Well, Angelus and Easoe, you guys got anything on that one?
I'm big on having a systematic solution. Just let some thinking minds get together and figure it out to where it's not a possibility to break the rule instead of trying to work around the rule. That'd be my take.
Okay. Easoe got anything?
Nah, like you guys said, it's interesting thought, but doesn't fix the actual problem.
Okay, I'm gonna combine these two questions into one just because it kind of just goes off each other. Is it true that Mecha baited X5 into thinking he was going to join them so he could SB with them, learn their strats, and use it against them on cocaine? And with Mecha joining, and when Easoe isn't being a hider troll, the question from preseason is relevant once more. Will Pister start his best players or remain loyal to those who have stuck with him for the past few seasons?
Hmm. I like that two-parter question there. I will. I mean, I don't know the conversations that Mecha and X5 had. I will say that I was told that Mecha was going to join us. Evidently, that did not happen. So I answered that part. In terms of Pister's loyalty to his players, I think at the end of the day, Pister wants to win. He surrounds himself with players that want to win, uh, and they all kind of share the same activity, except for maybe Easoe and maybe even Jordan for that matter. I know that once in a while they don't show up because they got shit to do, right? I mean, to put it bluntly. Um, I don't think that Pister will pick his quote unquote day one buddies over people like Easoe and or Jordan, because at the end of the day, Pister plays pretty much daily with a lot of his squad mates to win and to ensure a victory. So I don't see that happening. I see him putting his top 8 players in when push comes to shove, especially in the playoffs.
Easoe, Angelus?
Yeah, I think not just for cocaine, but for any squad. I mean, you're gonna get to answer that question during the playoffs. Even, I mean, you could look at, almost the top 4 squads and ask yourself the same question, especially for that, 7 to 8 spot. For like K-Dude, for instance, I mean, if you show your top lineup, then you have champion in as well. So who's gonna sit? Tactical. I mean, obviously someone's gonna be willing to sit, but I mean, you're going to have to obviously sit somebody that's really good. For cocaine, you might have that issue as well. We have a few unreliable players, so we'll see if it comes up. It might. But yeah, you never know, honestly, until the playoffs come and then that question gets answered.
I mean, let's not forget, Pister supposedly kept Sov on the bench in playoffs for loyalty. So who knows? I mean, I think at the end of the day, I agree. I think he does end up playing his 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 top 8. But I just don't know who actually gets benched. If it's a map where Nader isn't effective, I think Kevin gets benched. But I mean, it just, I don't know. I agree. I think you always, especially come playoff, you play the best 8, and that's really it. I've got one more question and then I'm good. Fausto, you got any more?
Nope, you go ahead. Read that last one.
Okay. At the end of his interview, MVP legend ZMN mentioned this other league that could be happening. It sounds really interesting. Any more info? Okay, dude. Can we ban ZMN from the league? Absolutely, I'm in favor. Angelus, you want to talk about your league, bud? CTF?
Do I? Yeah, it's a great league, and you should all come play. And Zeman's definitely not going to bench all you skirmish players. He's going to let you
I call
play.
bullshit.
He's going to train you up real good, just like we're getting trained up real good. It's going to be a great time. So everyone sign up and let's go play.
I call instant bullshit because he locked me in spec for all of CTF DL Season 1.
Oof.
Yeah. I will say, to kind of answer that question, ZMN kind of already said it in his post-game interview that he's looking to do what's a little different. Last season he did a captain and a co-captain. This time it's going to be a captain, a co-captain, and then a specific USLer to be on the team as a quote-unquote liaison. His words, not mine. I will say CTF is fun in spurts. But sometimes, and this is where I think a lot of the skirmishers are going to kind of get tired of it, is the games just sometimes last too long. And a lot of the time it feels like you're just running your head against the wall, especially if you're on offense. Also, Bowen just said he's signing up as engineer. Each time I've signed up, I've not gotten to play my first or even second choice. So, that's a huge turnoff to people that are new to the zone. They're going to want to play at least one of their top 2 choices, and if they get relegated to something they don't want to play, they're not going to show up, right? And that's all I got. So, any thoughts on that? Anybody else?
No.
Nope.
I think it's hopefully some more SKers join that CTF league and vice versa. I think maybe in the future, maybe we even do like a top head staff member from CTF, kind of maybe becomes like an advisory role in SK and vice versa, just to get some new info, something to think about.
Yeah, that's fair. And yeah, Bonds, you were gonna put me on offense. Definitely gonna play WoW over playing on offense, man. Anyways, that wraps it up for Week 4's preview edition. Once again, USL Season 26. Thanks for showing up, guys. Have a good night.